Good morning. You got to see the side of my desk there. I had my camera facing the wrong direction. Or actually my phone, I had it on picture taking mode instead of the selfie mode. And so today, I was going to be back at home, and I just was struck by how many people commented on yesterday's, not meditation, but yesterday's video. And then I was caught by this article. By the way, Dawn put in there that I had put the Christ in Our Home 2 devotionals, and there are some large print ones out there. This magazine is out there, which I'd highly recommend getting. If you don't read this magazine, you are going to be lacking at what the church at large is doing. And I think it's important to know what the church at large is doing, because that's who we are a part of. And I have heard way too many times that I didn't know our church was doing. And I looked back one time and discovered that this person did not know what our church was doing, although we've been doing it for 18 years. So it's one of those things that I just strongly recommend. Grabbing a hold of the wonderful Living Lutheran. I read it from cover to cover, usually. I haven't read this one from cover to cover yet. But I have read an article. What I'm discovering, as I said before, people are grieving now. And it's starting to come out. And that needs to happen. Some people are grieving loss of incomes. I understand that. People are grieving loss of lives. I understand that. People are grieving the loss of just general health. I understand that. We're grieving all sorts of things. Our minds, our physicalness, being together. We're grieving that. We're grieving the church. We're grieving doing business. We're grieving not having enough toilet paper. You know, there's so much to grieve. And this article called The Poet Pastor ends with these words that I think are so beautifully written. This is not a poem, it's just what he says. Grief is grief. This is not a competition, he said. I hope people can learn other people are also going through things. And God is with us. Part of what can happen with grief is anger. The loss turns into anger. And when that happens, we start to say things that we will regret. One of the best things we can do is speak our grief. But the better thing yet is to hear. One of the poems that this pastor wrote is this: our hearts need to speak and to cry out and to demand and to be heard. When you're in grief, we can't be fixed. None of us wants to be fixed. We just want to be heard. And sometimes in our grief, we demand to be heard. And perhaps that's one of the best things we can do, is when people start to just say, things have to change right now. Things have got to go this way. When all of a sudden you hear a demand, there's probably grief behind it. And we need to speak our grief too. But I think one of the things we can do as Christians, I have seen so much in history where the church has gotten it wrong. I hope and pray that we can get it right. Get it right this time. That we can be patient. We can hear the other. We don't have to take action. All we need to do is hear. And one of the ways we can keep being patient ourselves is to know that the Holy Spirit is with all of us, even with us. And that part of the fear that comes into our lives are things we put there ourselves. We're grieving what will happen, even though we don't know that will happen. But we can still sit in joy, even in grief, because we know God is here. And the way we can know that God is here is to experience it in our meditation, in our reading of the Bible, in studying, and in encouraging each other. So let's get set up now with our bodies. If you want to get your candle lit, or your cross laid out, perhaps you have a rock. Maybe I sometimes use a feather. That comes out strong in my heritage, so sometimes feathers show up on my altar. Sometimes herbs, special herbs. So set up your body, feet flat on the floor. Where are all the contacts where you're sitting? Perhaps you're sitting on the floor, sitting on a chair, lying on the couch. Feel the contacts. Do a quick body scan. Where is the tension? Yesterday afternoon, I don't know what happened. Doesn't matter. But I knew I had hit the end of the rope. Stress goes to one place in my body, and boy, do I feel it in my shoulder today. You have that spot too, and perhaps your day was not stressful, perhaps there was grief. It all shows up in different places of the body. And it's our job to scan our bodies frequently, determine what our emotion is right now, and where is that located in my body. Be curious about that. Pretend you're a child trying to find something new, because in a way that's what we're doing. And now just rest your mind, follow your breath, perhaps at your nose. Ooh, that cool air comes into the nose. You can feel it warmer leaving. If that's the strong spot where you feel your breath, stay there. Some people feel it in their chest. That in-breath, you just feel the chest expanding. The exhale, it falls back. For me, it's always in my stomach. I always follow that inhale, and the belly's as big as it's getting. I can feel it pooch out more and more every day, the way it seems. And the exhale, falling back. That's where I feel the breath most strongly. Wherever you feel it most strongly, stay there. And now, just breathe. It's not our intent to change the breath at all. Just breathe. Many times when you do this, you notice that your breath gets deeper. If that's what's happening naturally, let that happen. Just don't force it. And breathe. Perhaps your mind has wandered somewhere. Be curious about that. Where did that thought go? What's the emotion attached to that thought? Just be aware of it. Don't go there. Just be aware of what is that emotion that got attached to that thought. Do I feel that in my body? Breathe into that. And then come back to the normal breath. And breathe in the breath of God. Breathe out your cares and concerns. Breathe out the love, breathe in the love of God. Breathe out your doubts and despairs. Wherever you were breathing in the beginning, be breathing there yet. Breathe in the life of God. Breathe out your fears and frustrations. We sit quietly before the one who gives life and love to all creation. We sit in awe of the one who formed us in our mother's wombs. We sit at peace, surrounded by the one who fills every fiber of our being. We sit in grief, breathing in the life of God, the love of God. And in our grief, we realize we are also in joy. Both belong. Breathe in the breath of God. Breathe out your tensions, your turmoil. Breathe in the love of God. Breathe out your haste, your hurry. Breathe in the life of God. Breathe out your work and worry. We sit quietly before the one who gives life and love to all creation. We sit at peace, surrounded by the one who fills every fiber of our being. Our hearts need to speak and cry out and to demand and to be heard. Breathe out your grief to God. Take time that in your heart take time to speak, to cry out, to demand to be heard. And in the language of the Bible, take time now to lament. Grief is grief. You're speaking to God, lamenting to God. Hopefully has brought you a little bit of peace, knowing that God hears your every word. That doesn't mean peace is gone. And don't try to push it away. Grief is grief. There is no competition in it either. Your grief is not worse than somebody else's grief. And one of the things that we are pretty much guaranteed, 101%, is everybody is carrying grief. Theirs is not worse than yours. Yours is not worse than theirs. God has heard your grief. When the demands get strong, we know somebody is grieving. When anger abounds, there might be grief behind that even. And we know one thing. We need to hear it. You don't have to fix it. All you have to do is hear it. So breathe in the breath of God. Breathe out your tensions and turmoil. You may open your eyes at any time. Start to wiggle your fingers, your toes, your body. One of the things I want to talk about just a little bit before I let you go is emotions are real, but they cannot control our lives. Emotions are built up of things that have happened to us or things that we think might happen to us. Emotions generally happen because of a thought. Sometimes it's worth to just look at our lives right now and say, hey, am I alive? Am I awake? And realize everything is okay. Perhaps just as it is. And it is. So, take time to breathe. And know this. I know you're grieving. We all are. Take it to the Lord. That doesn't mean you're going to give your fear, your grief all to Him. Grief is a strange thing. It's there. Don't try to push it away. But also realize there's also joy in your life. Those seem like two conflicting things. After a while you realize, even in your grief, there's this glimmer of hope. There's this glimmer of joy. And I think that's what we are called to be. This glimmer of hope. This glimmer of joy for others. We have 2 ears. We can listen as God has listened to us. And so my prayer for you all today and this weekend is peace. Always peace. May the love of God carry you. May the love of God hold you. And may the love of God overflow. Overflow so much that you have so much even to give. Even when the soul feels empty. Peace and love of God be with you all. By the way, if you're hearing just lots of hums or lots of grumbles or whatever outside, there's a race car going around the track. And it didn't seem like that loud, but I don't know if you heard it or not. That's what it was. So, anyway, and I'm at peace with that. So, hey, you have a great, wonderful, Good Shepherd weekend. Bye-bye.